Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Alex here, and today I'm going to be going over my top 10 cornerbacks in this year's draft. Okay, so starting off with number 1, we have Jeff Okudah, 6'1", 201 pounds, out of the Ohio State University. This guy's an all-around stud. He can do everything. When it comes to man, when it comes to zone, when it comes to press, when it comes to run defense, this guy he's a jack of all trades. He's especially good in zone coverage in my opinion, but he can pretty much work in any scheme. But if you want to get the most out of him, I would have to say he'd probably want to be a boundary corner in like more of a zone type scheme. So I'm going to give him an impact grade of 82. This guy is a jack of all trades, like I said, and I think that once he's put on the ground, he's a starting caliber cornerback in any team around the league. Even the Rams, when they have Jalen Ramsey, I think he can line up right across from Jalen Ramsey and even contest him for a job. His potential is a 91. He has some really good athleticism. Not extremely elite athleticism, but he definitely has enough to get him over the hump. And I wouldn't put him one-on-one with Tyreek Hill. Let's not say that. We'll put some safety help over the top if that's the case. But when it comes to the majority of wide receivers, he can keep up with them, and he can definitely keep up with them in coverage. So I gave him a potential 91, and that gives him an overall of 85. And my comp for him is Stephon Gilmore. They're both lockdown cornerbacks, a lot like Champ Bailey. And I think that Jeff Okudah doesn't have the potential to be the number one corner, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there in that conversation in a couple years' time. So I think he's worth a top 5 pick. I believe that he's number 4 on my draft board, and I think he's going to the Lions at number 3. But news came out today that the Lions are shopping their pick, and the Dolphins are looking to move up and surprisingly select an offensive tackle. So later today when I post my what would I do mock draft, I might even implement that into a trade scenario. Okay, going on to number 2, we have CJ Henderson. This guy is 6'1", 203 pounds out of Florida, and he's actually a very interesting prospect. He has a lot of physical talent. He is a great press corner, and he does such a good job at basically doing everything that you want from him as a boundary corner. But he does have a lot of times where he slips up. And I think that he is going to get a little bit exposed in his rookie year, but I think down the line he's going to be a much better corner than what we see him to be right now. And he's getting some top 10 buzz, and right now I don't really think I would put him in the top 10, but I certainly wouldn't roast a team for trying to take this guy, because I give him an impact of 79 simply because I don't think he has the coverage ability of Jeff Okudah right now. But with his size, with his weight, I think he has a little bit more physical strength, and I think that will get him over the top when it comes to his potential. So I give him a little bit higher potential at 93, which gives him an 83.7 overall. And my comp from is a faster Richard Sherman. So this guy's going to be in that type of Seattle cover 3 defense where basically corners are able to have a little bit more space, a little bit more time to react and move around. And I think that that's going to work to CJ Henderson's advantage a lot because he's a really stud corner with elite athleticism. My team prediction for him is the Raiders, and I don't really think he gets past 12 at this point. It would be very shocking to me if he passes 20 in this draft. Going on to number 3, we have Jaylen Johnson out of Utah, 6', 195 pounds. I believe he's 21 years old as a redshirt sophomore. And this guy is actually extremely interesting as well because he is an extreme athlete when it comes to ball skills and then playing the run. He's such a good tackler. And he's very, very, very interesting at that height. And then he doesn't have that extreme elite athleticism when it comes to speed, but he's very, very, very good at coverage, and I love watching him play. He's so mesmerizing when you get to see him match up against number ones, and it's super fun to watch. And I think this guy's a really bright future, although I think his athleticism kind of hinders him slightly. Not too much, just slightly. And I don't think he's of the caliber of the guys before, but I think he has potential to be a definite starting cornerback in this league. I think anybody with the potential over a 79 can easily get a starting job on the majority of teams in this NFL. So, with their potential. So overall, he's 77.3, which coming in day one, that's really solid, really solid. So my comp for him is Josh Norman, somebody who is undersized and not really the best athlete, but has amazing coverage and is extremely aggressive. So I love how Jaylen Johnson works with the press, and I think that he and Josh Norman both have that in common. And I think that they're going to that Jaylen Johnson is going to become a Josh Norman type where he's going to be a lockdown corner, but I think he's going to be exposed when it comes to faster wide receivers. So I still have a first-round draft grade on him, and I think he's going to the 49ers. So watch out for that defense becoming even better than they were the year before. Okay, going on to number 4. It's Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama. 6'2", 195 pounds. Extremely nice build for a corner. So this guy, he has insane coverage ability, and I think he does get exposed quite a bit, but he's definitely that type of man corner / zone that you really want on the outside, especially with that frame. 6'2", that allows a lot more wiggle room when it comes to him catching up the guys. And I think he's going to be able to do that in the NFL, and I think these schemes that they're running right now in the NFL allow cornerbacks to have a little bit more leeway when it comes to having a little bit of separation, especially with these Seattle cover 3 schemes. So I think Trayvon Diggs will work really well in that, and I think his initial impact is not as high as the 73 just because I think he has a little bit more to reach for when it comes to being able to being a lockdown corner and sticking with wide receivers. But if he gets there, he's a solid build, and he has good enough athleticism to get him up to an 83. So, again, someone who can easily start on any team. So it gives him an overall 76.3. Again, super solid, super solid. Anybody who has an overall above a 74 has potential to be a starting cornerback in this league. So my comp for him is Vontae Davis, who was originally on the Dolphins, then the Colts, and the Bills. Infamous for walking out and quitting at halftime during one of the games. Extremely reliable, good size, and somebody who can have a great tenure in the NFL. And he's probably not going to be a top 5 cornerback in the league, but he certainly is somebody who can have a great tenure. So my draft grade is a late first, still a very solid talent. And I think he's going to the Texans in the early second. Going on to number 5, we have Christian Fulton out of LSU. 6 foot, 201 pounds. You saw him go in the draft with Keon's pick, and that was early in the first round, so we'll see a little bit of discrepancy with my draft grade in that. But he's a solid cornerback. He got exposed quite a bit during this last season, but of course, that franchise guy liked to point out the fact that he got exposed simply because no one wanted to target at Derek Stingley, which I don't really blame most quarterbacks because I saw Stingley become a complete ball hawk, especially as a true freshman. So we have to watch out for him down the line. I think he can definitely be better than even Jeff Okudah. Definitely challenging for a number 1 overall pick if he continues to get better with the way he is right now. So, I mean, you have to take Christian Fulton with a pinch of salt because he did have quite a few targets at him, and if you have a lot of targets, you're eventually going to slip up, which he did. But he has insane athleticism. He's really, really smart. I gave him Marcus Peters comp because he can really stick with wide receivers, and he's super aggressive. But he does get beat when he does like to get a little bit aggressive, and you kind of saw that with the Clemson game. He got a little bit beat, got a little torched, and throughout the season, he really didn't show out the way that he would if Derek Stingley was not on the other side of the field. So I would give him the comp of Marcus Peters, and I mean, that's a very, very reputable comp. And I give him an early second, so of course, this guy's probably top 40 for me. Really solid talent, even though it sounds like I'm saying he got toasted and stuff. It's like, it's not really a bad mark on him. It just shows that Derek Stingley is that scary. And my prediction is the Vikings. I really think that the Vikings need a corner, and whether they're going to run with Holton Hill and Mike Hughes or not is kind of a question mark, but I think that Christian Fulton definitely could not hurt that defense. Going on to number 6, Jeff Gladney out of TCU. I used to have him a little bit higher until I started watching tape on these other guys. Jeff Gladney is 6 foot, 183, and he is a guy who doesn't have that elite athleticism, but he definitely brings to the table enough of it to consider him as a second-round prospect. And he's a little bit undersized with 183 pounds, especially when you have guys like DK Metcalf and then A.J. Brown up in that 230 range. But I think that he offers some really solid athleticism. He is a redshirt senior at 23 years of age, which is a little bit daunting for me if I were a GM, just simply because if it was somebody who was a little bit younger, you give a little more time to kind of create them into your franchise cornerback, get a couple more years on the tires. But Jeff Gladney's shown that he's extremely solid in coverage. He can definitely work with the press, and I think he has a bright future in the NFL. It's just I don't really think his athleticism gives him enough potential to really get up there. And my comp for him is a worse Casey Hayward, and people always point out that Casey Hayward is somebody who, and like Josh Norman, they were both undersized and then not very athletic, but their IQ and work ethic is just through the roof. So I'm not 100% sure if Jeff Gladney is going to be able to meet that IQ and work ethic that those two guys have. So I'm not going to give him a high potential simply because it's like if he had that high of IQ, I think we would have seen a little bit more of it. But regardless, I think this guy does have potential to be a Casey Hayward type if he really puts in the work. It's just you can't really project someone to work as hard as Bill Gates if they're starting out a business. So you have to be a little bit more realistic, and I think I'm going to give him a little bit under Casey Hayward's comp, which is still in a solid cornerback. Casey Hayward was a monster. He still is a monster. So Jeff Gladney does have that potential, and I think he should go to the Jaguars because I think they're really missing A.J. Boye. Because, I mean, they're really they lost their top two corners. They need somebody else who can anchor down the defense. And 81 overall potential, 81 potential, 75 overall grade. That's going to definitely be solid enough in order to be able to start on almost any team. And the Jaguars are really hurting for a cornerback at this point. And I think earlier in the draft that they're going to address other needs. And then they're going to be able to get more of this deeper cornerback class. Okay, going on to number 7, Noah Igbinoghene out of Auburn, 5'11", 200 pounds, extremely athletic, smaller frame, but much more dense at 5'11", 200. And this guy, he's more of a project. He's definitely a man corner. I think that he does get a little bit exposed when it comes to zone defenses, and that's why I'd probably have him in more of a Seattle scheme where he has a little more room to move and where there's a little bit more help around him because this guy's an extreme athlete. He's super loose with his hips, and I think he has the ability to become a top corner in the NFL. However, the chances of that aren't very high. So his impact is a 69.0, which is pretty nice if you ask me. He has just that man ability, which is not too often used in the NFL anymore, especially with these spread offenses. You have to be more in that zone coverage scheme that's being very popular. So I don't think he's that much of a day one impact. I think he's probably going to be a number 3 option, but I think he can work as a really solid slot until he's able to develop his comfortability with NFL wide receivers, which is why I gave him an 80.0 potential, which is still extremely solid. He's able to start on any team with an 80 potential and 75.3 overall. So I think this guy does have a lot of talent. I say he's a lot like Joe Hayden, somebody who's like an all-reliable man cover. I mean, Joe Hayden doesn't have the athleticism anymore, but the guy's old, so you can't really blame him. But Joe Hayden had his years where he was a prime corner in the NFL. I say he's a late second, and he should go to the Eagles. Eagles have Darius Slay, another agile, man-based corner, and I think that if they put some safety coverage over the top with all their safeties that they have now, even though they lost Malcolm Jenkins, that they can really work to have a much, much more improved secondary, and they could definitely challenge to be one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Okay, going on to number 8, A.J. Terrell out of Clemson, 6'1", 190. I'm kind of questioning putting him here because he did show that he is extremely talented, but I have to admit, the last game I saw him, when he was against Jamar Chase, he looked like he was in high school, I'm going to be honest. So, I mean, that's against Jamar Chase. However, I think the guy at at the catch point is not very good. He had only 30 targets last year before the playoffs, which is a good sign, but he didn't show that he could do anything when he was targeted. So I'm a little bit worried, especially when it comes to the much better talents in the NFL when it comes to wide receivers. So I'm going to keep him here, but I do have that like thing pulling me towards raising him up on this list. But he's a solid corner, great frame, 6'1", 190, extremely fast, 4.42 40, very athletic. And I think that he's going to be able to come in day one and provide something where if you have safety coverage over the top, then he's going to be super solid. He does have that Darius Slay type of potential, and I've heard comps to Trayvon Mullen, which is kind of cheap because Trayvon Mullen just came out of Clemson last year. But I'm going to give him the worst Darius Slay comp. We already heard Darius Slay earlier today. But he's athletic. He's more of a man corner, super loose hips, really good. But I think that he doesn't have that coverage ability that Darius Slay has, and I don't think he has the potential to get there because he has been doing this since his freshman year. So I give him a late second, still very solid choice, and I'm putting him on the Cowboys. Cowboys are hurting for a corner, and I think they can really use this one. Okay, going on to number 9, we have Cameron Dantzler, 6'2", 185 out of Mississippi State. So Cameron Dantzler, has that amazing height factor with 6'2". He's a little bit scrawny at 185, I must admit, and I'm looking at the picture of him right now, and it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't really excite me at the moment with his athleticism, but I think this guy has insane talent. I saw him play against Jamar Chase, and he actually locked him down a bit. I mean, granted, it's Jamar Chase. He definitely had his way, but Cameron Dantzler showed that he had the ability to cover somebody who is an NFL talent. So impact is 66. I think he makes way too many mistakes with his coverage, but he has a potential of 80, which is higher than AJ Terrell, just because I saw him be able to lock up a star talent like Jamar Chase on a couple routes, and I think that's extremely important. His hands are kind of questionable though, because I saw him guard Jamar Chase and then get a ball that should have easily been picked and he dropped it. But regardless, if he's able to work on that, I think he can be a solid starting talent in the NFL. So overall, 70.7. And my comp for him is a worse AJ Boye. And AJ Boye, solid man corner. But I think that Cameron Dantzler needs to work on those hands issues and be a little bit more consistent in order to do that. And I'm giving him a late second draft grade, and he's going to the Seahawks, so somebody who can definitely use a corner who is very talented like that. Okay, going on to number 10, Darnay Holmes. So this is a guy who's a hometown guy for me. We got to play against him when he played at Calabasas High School, so it was a constant rivalry between Calabasas and Oaks Christian. So I got to watch this guy firsthand completely lock down the offense. And it was extremely mesmerizing to watch him. He was number 1 corner in his high school class. This guy has so much talent, and apparently last year he had a little bit of problems when it came to his life issues. I think he had something going on at home, and it was just kind of pulling him away. He is he is a junior, so he is extremely young. He completed UCLA in 3 years, so cheers to him for that, because he said, I'm going to go to the NFL after going to UCLA and graduating in 3 years. So cheers to him for doing that. But I'm going to give him an impact of 64 just because he showed that he was a little bit too erratic. He got beat on some very easy things. But this guy, he didn't run the best, but I know he has athleticism. I've seen it with my own eyes. Everybody believes it. So I think that he can really get up there. So I'm giving him a much higher potential than probably what most people are going to with an 81, which gives him a 69.7, which is still number 2, number 3 quality corner. But I think if he reaches his potential, he could be a solid starting cornerback in the NFL. I'm giving him a Trey Waynes comp, someone who's extremely fast, who needs to work on their their coverage ability, especially with man. And I think that the potential is too good to pass up if you're in the 3rd round. And somebody who really could use him is the Panthers. They have their cornerback that they drafted a couple years ago out of LSU, and that guy's a speed burner. He's really, really, really solid. So I think if they pair him up with Darnay and then let both of them continue to learn as time progresses with their speed, they can have a very formidable defense. So, guys, well, that wraps up the list. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there's anything more that you guys want to see. I know draft is coming tomorrow, so if you guys want to see a live stream, let me know. Otherwise, I'm not going to hold you guys here any longer. Thank you guys so much for spending your time watching my video, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.